Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode this week with Takunda Noha. Hey Takunda, welcome back.
Thank you, Vasco. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. So Takunda, Wednesday is Change Day. And of course, I like to call it change leadership rather than change management, because as Scrum Masters, we're often not managing the change. We have to lead the change. We have to be catalysts. We have to help people find the value in the change and find the steps they need to go through. There's a lot of work we need to do with that. So share one of those stories with us, Takunda. Walk us through, the context and then the process that change took. And as you go through the process, highlight for us the tips, the tools, the techniques that you learned back then that you still apply today.
All right. Thank you so much for the chance to talk about this one. This one's one of the most challenging initiatives that I've undertaken in my career thus far. So I'll try explain the context and then explain what was the problem. You can imagine in a delivery factory, right, a software delivery factory, you've got several different systems, and you need to deliver a feature, right? This feature, if you are to deliver it, you need the several different teams to be able to deliver portions of it and then tie it together to make one single feature before it goes to production, right? These several different teams are siloed from each other, completely different delivery lines and management lines, so they don't collaborate, they don't cross-functionally work together, right? They're not set up that way. They, in fact, come from different vendors completely and servicing, however, the same company. Now, with that context in mind, you can imagine I'm trying to deliver a specific feature for a holiday that's coming up, like Valentine's Day, right? And that feature, for it to go out on time by Valentine's Day, you need the several teams to work together to be able to piece together their portion of what they can do for that feature, and then test together, deploy together, so that we have something out in time. This is a tremendously difficult thing to get done right, especially when the individual teams aren't really concerned about the whole feature. They only think about their portion of what they have to do. And as long as they've done that and they've put that into SIT, for example, I'm done with my part, I can move on and tick my box, right? So it's up to you as sort of like a delivery manager to try and piece together this piece of work. The initiative that I'm talking about would need to go out on several different holidays throughout the year, so Valentine's Day, Easter, and so forth, right? And so we kept failing to hit our targets because of this interdependency that we had between these teams. Something would go wrong, someone would go and leave, someone would be sick, someone wouldn't deliver on time, and hence the full piece couldn't be tied together in time and would always scramble and most of the times miss the deadline. Now, how did we go about trying to solve this, right? Well, firstly, we had to have some data to work with. We needed facts. We needed to be able to paint a picture, not just by words, but using data to say, this is why we are always late with this kind of initiatives. Look at the history, look at the last 4 or 5 attempts of delivering something by a specific holiday, and these are the reasons why we haven't been able to meet it consistently. Because of these type of dependencies, they always slip out. So when you have some data, you can pull some reports and you can show that it helps your argument. The second thing was to figure out then what would be a best case scenario. How could this actually work? And now we're putting on our agile hat and we notice that what is missing here is that cross-functional team, right? We don't have a cross-functional team that is sitting and thinking and working towards a single goal and a single vision.
And so that was kind of the vision for the change, right? Like creating this cross-functional team.
Correct. And so the difficult part now comes, which is to convince the organization that it's worth pulling individuals out of these silos, making them sit together, making them work on a single product backlog that is focused on a specific deadline or for a specific holiday, and delivering that piece of value, that product by that time. And so the conversation started at sort of like a management level. So these individuals, we identified who we needed because we have the history, right? We have the history of the failed initiatives in the past. We know which skill sets we need from which particular system, and we drew up a best case scenario of how our team would look like. Then we had to go and advocate for this, going through each system and discussing with them if this is even possible. We got a lot of pushback. Definitely no. The individuals that you're asking for are not specifically only looking at your work. They're looking at everyone else's work. They're specialists. They're expensive. We cannot dedicate them to one particular initiative. It doesn't work that way. And so we had to try again and again. So another thing we picked up on our journey is you have to be persistent. You will get told no a lot. But if you believe in what you're trying to create, you have to persist. You have to hold on to what you're asking for and try again and again. And so we ended up, we didn't get it right the first time. We didn't get the people we needed. We got some of the people, right? We got two people to sit together and work together. We got a designer and we got a developer, and that was it. There was no testing specialist. There was nothing else to work with. But over time, over a few quarters, we finally managed to pull out of the different silos enough individuals to make a cross-functional team. There was all eyes on us to see if this will actually work, if this will actually deliver things faster. You've pushed so hard, you've made people drop their other commitments to try and get this team to work. Is it going to work? It didn't work. It didn't work for the first time. Because again, you have a brand new team, right? These people have never worked together in this way. This is a brand new way of working for them. So there's going to be some learning that they have to go through. And another thing that then you learn when you go through something like this is you have to have a thick skin, right? You have to fail, but don't feel like a failure, right? The failure is not you. It's the experiment that you've run. That didn't work. You are still fine, you're still valid, you're still worth the effort and the time. So pick yourself up, try it again. Over time, I think it took us about 3 more attempts to get these particular features out on the specific holidays. And I think on the third, by Christmas, we managed to get something out in time for Christmas. Before everybody broke.
Which, I mean, you described as a series of failures that led to success, but I mean, if you think about it, the organization had failed a lot longer and more often at the exact same goal.
Absolutely.
Right? And when you say pick yourself up because, it's not you who failed, it's the experiment, I think that's a very important realization. When you're trying to do something new and different, you need to be aware that surprising things will happen, and not all of those will be positive, right? And of course, you might get lucky and deliver on time the first time you try it. That may happen, but it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed, right? And then you need to improve.
Absolutely. So you mustn't set yourself up to think, finally, I've got my team set up, so I'm going to be successful. No, you're just starting. That's the beginning of the journey. Now you're going to have to go through the normal team growth model, right? You're storming, norming, forming, and performing. You're still going to have to go through all of that with this new team. So that's just one hurdle that you've overcome, but you're still going to have to go through it. And the success is there. You just have to keep pushing until you get to that point of look.
And one aspect of the success being there, of course, is us listening to Takunda and knowing that somebody succeeded with this. Yes. And reading the books and understanding that, there are many different things we can try. Like there's the book Team Topologies, where there's different aspects and different structures we can build around teams for specific goals. And that's important to understand, that there's not only one solution for all goals. Yes. But we get this, right? So thank you, Takunda, for sharing that, because we get this experience from others. We learn from what they've learned, and then we can put it to work in our own organizations.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you for sharing. Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.